Welcome to your deep dive. Ever wonder how they decide what new medical technology is actually ready? Like, how does something go from some scientist's lab to your doctor's office?
Yeah, it's a long road.
It is, right. And it usually involves years and years of clinical trials.
Right, that's the testing.
With real people.
Yeah.
And that takes time. It can be really expensive. So what if there was a faster, cheaper, and even safer way to test these new medical technologies?
Well, that's where things get really interesting because there's this new approach called In-Silico trials.
In-Silico. Okay, are we talking like Star Trek stuff here?
Kind of, yeah.
Right.
It sounds futuristic, but it's actually happening right now. And essentially what it means is we're talking about doing those clinical trials entirely within a computer simulation.
Whoa, okay, so no more labs, no more test subjects. We're going fully digital.
That's the idea. And we're actually looking at a really cool study today that used this in silico approach to test out a new technology for breast cancer screening.
Okay, so we're talking about breast cancer screening. Most people have probably heard of mammograms.
Right, mammograms.
But this new technology is called DBT.
Exactly, DBT. It stands for Digital Breast Tomosynthesis. Think of it as like the next generation of mammography.
Okay, so how is it different?
So instead of those flat X-ray images you get with a traditional mammogram, DBT gives you a 3D image of the breast tissue.
Oh, wow, so much more detail.
Way more detail. So doctors can get a much clearer picture and hopefully spot any potential problems earlier.
So it's got to be way better at finding those tiny little things that might be a problem, right?
That's the goal.
I mean, it sounds amazing, but like you were saying before, to prove that something like this actually works better than what we already have, you need really, really good evidence.
Yeah, exactly. You need to put it through its paces.
And usually that means a big clinical trial.
Big and expensive and potentially risky for the patients involved, too.
Which is where our research today comes in, right?
I got it.
Yeah.
This study decided to see if they could test out this new DBT technology using one of those in silico trials. So entirely within a computer simulation.
Okay, so how do you do that? How do you design a clinical trial that happens inside a computer?
So get this. They started by creating thousands of these virtual patients.
Virtual patients? Okay, now you're just messing with me, right?
I'm serious. These were like digital representations of real people, and they even programmed in all these different characteristics like different breast sizes and densities. They even went as far as inserting digital lesions into some of these virtual breasts.
So they basically created a whole virtual world just to test out this new screening technology.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And it gets even more interesting. They then used incredibly detailed computer models of both the traditional mammography machines and the new DBT machines to simulate what those scans would look like for each of those virtual patients.
Okay, hold on. So they've got their virtual patients, their virtual mammograms, but there are no real doctors reading these scans, are there?
You're way ahead of me.
Yeah.
You're right. To analyze those thousands and thousands of simulated mammograms, they created a computer program to act as the radiologist.
They really thought of everything.
They did. It's incredible, right?
Wow. So what happened? Did it work? So we've got these virtual patients, their virtual mammograms, and even the virtual radiologist. What happened next?
Well, that's the really exciting part, because that's where we find out if this whole digital trial actually lines up with what we see in the real world.
Okay, so did it. Were the results promising?
The results were actually incredible. The computer analysis showed that the DBT, that new technology, it consistently did a better job at detecting both small calcium deposits, those tiny specks of calcium, and the larger masses across all different breast densities.
So it's just across the board better.
Across the board,
Yeah.
which is exactly what we've seen in the real world when they've done these big clinical trials of DBT.
Wow. So it's like getting a sneak peek into the future of medicine, right? Being able to sort of predict how well a new technology is going to work, but without having to put any patients through a trial.
You got it. And that's why this study is such a big deal. It suggests we might be on the verge of a really big shift in how we test out new technologies, especially imaging technologies in medicine.
So what's the big picture here? What could this actually mean?
Well, just imagine a future where we can test out these new medical technologies much faster, cheaper, and without putting any patients at risk.
And way less exposure to imaging technology for everyone involved, which is good because that stuff can't be good for you, right?
Exactly.
I mean, it just seems like this could change everything, not just for breast cancer screening, but for healthcare as a whole.
It really could, and it just shows how far things have come with computational modeling. They were able to model not only the imaging equipment itself, but all of the incredibly complex ways that those X-rays are interacting with all the different tissues in the body.
It's like simulating real life.
Exactly. It's like creating a mini version of that whole clinical trial process,
Yeah.
but inside a computer.
So we're good, right? Are we done? Is that it?
Well, almost. We do need to remember that this technology is still really new, and there's still some things we need to be cautious about.
What kind of things?
Well, for example, this particular study focused on two very specific types of lesions. But in the real world, radiologists are looking for a much wider range of things when they're reading those mammograms.
Okay, so it's not quite a perfect system yet,
Not yet, no.
but it still seems like the potential here is huge. It could drastically speed up the development of life-saving technologies, right?
Exactly, and it's not just limited to imaging. This type of technology could change the way we approach all kinds of things in healthcare.
So is this it? Are we saying goodbye to all those big, expensive clinical trials?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's definitely a game changer, but I don't think traditional trials are going away completely anytime soon.
So we're not quite strapping on those VR headsets and ditching the labs just yet.
Not just yet. There's still a real need for testing in the real world, especially with things that are hard to perfectly recreate in a computer, like how comfortable patients are with a new procedure, or how easy it is for doctors and nurses to actually use a new technology.
Or what might happen down the road, like long-term side effects, that kind of thing.
Exactly. It's really difficult to capture all of that in a simulation.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So how do you see these in silico trials fitting into the bigger picture then? How do they change how we develop these new technologies?
I think they have the potential to become a really important first step, almost like a filter. Before we invest all the time and money into those big trials with real patients, we can run these in silico trials to kind of see which approaches seem the most promising.
So weed out the duds early on.
Exactly. And the really amazing thing about these in silico trials is how flexible they are. I mean, we've been focusing on imaging technology today, but this has implications way beyond just taking pictures of the body.
Oh, yeah. Like what else could you use this for?
Well, imagine using this to test out new drugs. Instead of taking years to figure out if a new drug is safe and effective and spending millions, even billions of dollars, we could use these computer simulations to identify the best candidates way faster and with less risk to patients.
Wow, that would be huge.
It would be groundbreaking. And that's not even scratching the surface. Think about personalized medicine. Using this technology to create a virtual model of a specific patient.
So you could see how an individual person's body would react to a certain treatment.
Exactly. So instead of a one-size-fits-all approach, doctors could essentially create a custom treatment plan for every single patient based on their unique situation and what their body needs.
That is some seriously next-level stuff.
It's incredible, isn't it? It's like having a crystal ball, being able to look into the future and see what treatment is going to work best for a particular person.
This technology is completely changing the game. We're basically on the verge of a whole new era in healthcare, it seems like.
I think so. And the really exciting thing is, this is just the tip of the iceberg. As our ability to model these complex biological systems continues to improve, who knows what we'll be able to achieve.
It's definitely an exciting time to be paying attention to the world of medicine and technology, that's for sure.
Oh, sure.
Well, we'll leave our listeners with this thought. What if the future of healthcare really is digital? Let us know what you think, and thanks for joining us for this deep dive.